Admiral Zektar stood before the massive holographic display in the Galactic Council chambers. His forearms crossed in obvious boredom. The blue-scaled Vorthan had conquered 17 star systems in his career and had little patience for what he saw as another routine threat assessment. The hologram showed a small, primitive spacecraft drifting through the void near a yellow star the locals called Sol. "This is what has you all worried." Zektar's voice carried the deep rumble that made lesser species tremble. One tiny ship from a species that barely learned to split atoms a few decades ago. Dr. Quillen, the Council's chief xenobiologist, adjusted his tentacles nervously around his datapad. The pale, jellyfish-like being had spent months studying the intercepted transmissions from Earth. "Admiral, we must not underestimate them. They achieved faster-than-light travel, remarkably quickly. Their progression from chemical rockets to FTL technology took only 75 years. Zektar laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "The Kethmari took 60 years to make the same jump, and we crushed them in a single day. Time means nothing if you lack the wisdom to use it properly." The hologram zoomed in on the human vessel. It looked fragile compared to the massive dreadnoughts that filled Vorthan battle fleets. The ship was called USS Liberty, according to the intercepted communications, and it carried 35 crew members on what appeared to be a scientific mission. The Council had been tracking its slow progress through nearby systems for 3 months. "Look at this pathetic design." Zektar pointed one of his clawed hands at the display. "No armor plating worth mentioning. Minimal weapons systems, and their engine output suggests they can barely maintain light speed for extended periods. A single Vorthan frigate could destroy 10 of these things without taking damage." "Captain." Velk of the Silicon Collective clicked his crystalline fingers together in what passed for agreement among his people. "The humans do seem remarkably unprepared for galactic contact. Our deep space monitors show this is their only vessel operating outside their home system." Dr. Quillen's tentacles writhed with anxiety. "That may be true, but their communications suggest a unified planetary government and industrial capacity that could become problematic if given time to develop. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic contact first." The suggestion drew derisive sounds from around the chamber. Admiral Zektar's eyes glowed brighter, a sign of his growing irritation. "Diplomacy is for species that pose actual threats. These humans sent out one tiny ship to look at pretty stars and take pictures of gas clouds. They are explorers, not warriors." The Vorthan Empire had built its power on swift, decisive action against emerging civilizations. The pattern was always the same: identify new species, assess their military capability, and either absorb them peacefully or crush them before they could become a problem. With humans, the assessment seemed laughably simple. "Their ship carries." Scientist Zektar continued, calling up personnel files that Vorthan intelligence had compiled. "The captain is Jake Harrison, a former test pilot with no military command experience. His chief science officer is Lisa Carter, a woman who studies rocks from dead planets. Their head engineer, Pete Rodriguez, spent most of his career working on civilian transport systems." The data painted a picture of peaceful exploration rather than military expansion. The USS Liberty had spent weeks in each system it visited, conducting detailed scans of planets, taking samples from asteroids, and transmitting lengthy scientific reports back to Earth. There had been no indication of weapons testing, no signs of military escort vessels, and no evidence of territorial claims being established. Commander Max of the insectoid swarm clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Their industrial output suggests they could build more ships if motivated. Should we not act before they realize the danger they face?" Zektar's laugh boomed through the chamber again. "Commander, they took 3 months to build that one ship. Even if they started construction tomorrow, it would take them years to create anything resembling a fleet. By then, they will be mining asteroids for Vorthan industrial complexes." The Council voted unanimously to authorize what they called a Standard Integration Protocol. The process was well established. Approach the target species with overwhelming force. Demonstrate the futility of resistance, and offer incorporation into the galactic civilization as a junior member. Species that accepted usually retained some autonomy over their homeworlds. Those that refused faced extinction. For humanity, the Council assigned a modest force. Admiral Zektar would personally lead 12 Vorthan heavy cruisers to the Sol system. The ships were old by Vorthan standards, but still carried enough firepower to level continents. Against a species with one exploration vessel, it represented overwhelming superiority. "We will arrive at their homeworld in 2 weeks," Zektar announced. "I expect their surrender within hours of our appearance. Dr. Quillen, prepare the standard integration documents. Make sure they understand that cooperation means survival, while resistance means nothing but ash." Dr. Quillen's tentacles drooped with resignation. He had seen this pattern too many times before. Young civilizations full of promise and potential, reduced to servitude or worse, because they encountered the galaxy before they were ready to defend themselves. As the council session ended, Admiral Zektar was already planning the deployment. His ships would drop out of hyperspace near the outer planets of the Sol system, well within sensor range of Earth, but far enough away to demonstrate restraint. The humans would have time to consider their options before the Vorthon fleet moved closer to their world. The Admiral expected the whole affair to be concluded quickly. Humans would see 12 warships that could destroy their entire civilization and make the only rational choice. Within a month, Earth would be another Vorthan industrial world, and its people would be working to expand the empire that had conquered them. It never occurred to Admiral Zektar that rational beings might prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. The concept of hiding true strength while appearing weak was foreign to Vorthan military thinking. They had always conquered through displays of overwhelming force, and it had worked for 1,000 years as his fleet prepared to depart. For the Sol system, Zektar reviewed the intelligence reports one final time. One human ship, crewed by scientists and explorers. No military presence in space. No sign of defensive preparations around their home world. The conquest would be so easy, it would barely qualify as a victory worth celebrating. The Admiral had no way of knowing that his intelligence was about to prove catastrophically incomplete. 2 weeks later, Admiral Zektar's fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Neptune, the outermost planet of the Sol system. The 12 Vorthan heavy cruisers formed a perfect battle line, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack moons in half. Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue-green marble of Earth hanging in space 3 billion kilometers away. "Scan for the human vessel," he ordered. "The Liberty should be somewhere in this system, according to our tracking data." Lieutenant Crixel, his tactical officer, worked frantically at her console. "Sir, I am detecting the Liberty near the 4th planet from their star. It appears to be conducting geological surveys of the planet's moons." Zektar nodded with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as predicted. The humans had no idea 12 warships were now in their system. Their single exploration vessel continued its peaceful scientific mission, oblivious to the doom that had arrived at their doorstep. "Open communications with their homeworld," the Admiral commanded. "Time to introduce ourselves properly." The communication took several minutes to reach Earth and return. When the response came, it surprised everyone on the Vorthan bridge. Instead of panicked government officials or confused civilians, a calm human voice responded with professional military precision. "Vorthan vessels, this is Admiral Ben Murphy of the United Earth Space Command. You are entering sovereign human territory. Please state your intentions." Zektar's 4 eyes widened in confusion. United Earth Space Command? The intelligence reports had mentioned no such organization. According to every assessment, humans barely had a space program beyond their one exploration vessel. "I am Admiral Zektar of the Vorthan Empire," he replied, trying to maintain his commanding tone. despite his growing uncertainty. "By authority of the Galactic Council, I demand immediate surrender of your world and integration into our civilization. Resistance will be met with total destruction." There was a pause before Admiral Murphy responded, and when he did, his voice carried an unmistakable note of amusement. "Admiral, I think there has been some kind of misunderstanding about human capabilities. Would you like me to clarify the situation?" "What misunderstanding?" Zektar demanded. "You have one ship in space. We have 12 vessels capable of destroying your entire planet." The mathematics seemed quite clear. "Lieutenant Crixel, Admiral." Murphy's voice came through the speakers again. "Please check your long-range sensors. I believe you might find something interesting." Lieutenant Crixel looked at her Admiral with confusion before turning to her instruments. As she activated the deep scan protocols, her expression changed from confusion to shock to outright terror. "Admiral," her voice came out as barely a whisper, "I am detecting massive signatures throughout the system." "What kind of signatures?" Zektar demanded, though he was beginning to suspect he would not like the answer. "Warships, sir. Dozens of them. They are using some kind of stealth technology, but our active scans are penetrating it. I count at least 60 vessels within strike range of our position." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of ship systems. Admiral Zektar felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest: genuine fear. "That is impossible. Our intelligence clearly showed one human vessel in space." Admiral Murphy's voice returned, now carrying a harder edge. "Admiral, your intelligence showed you exactly what we wanted it to show. Captain Jake Harrison of the Liberty has been doing excellent work as our advanced scout, while you were watching him collect rock samples and take pictures. My ships have been getting into position." As if to emphasize the point, space around the Vorthen fleet began to shimmer. One by one, human warships dropped their stealth fields and became visible. They were unlike anything in the Vorthen database. Instead of massive dreadnoughts, the human vessels were sleek and angular, covered in sensor arrays and weapons systems that defied easy classification. "Commander." Steve Walsh of the UES Guardian opened his own communication channel, "Vorthen Fleet. You are now surrounded. I have 20 ships in perfect firing position on your starboard flank. Recommend you consider your next move very carefully." Captain Maria Santos added her voice from the opposite side. "Admiral Zektar, this is Captain Santos of the UES Defender. My 15 vessels have targeting solutions on your port side. Any aggressive move will result in immediate engagement." Lieutenant Crixel's voice cracked as she read her instruments. "Admiral, I am now detecting over 300 human vessels throughout the system. They are positioned at every major gravitational body, from their innermost planet to beyond our current position." Admiral Zektar's mind raced to understand how his intelligence could have been so completely wrong. "This is impossible. We have been monitoring your communications for months. There was no indication of military construction or fleet deployment." "That is because we have been monitoring your communications for years," Admiral Murphy replied. "We detected the Galactic Council's probe networks decades ago. We knew someone was out there, and we knew they had a tendency to conquer or destroy emerging civilizations. So we prepared." Captain Jake Harrison's voice joined the conversation from the Liberty. "Admiral Zektar, I have been watching your scout ships for 3 months. Every time they appeared to observe me, I made sure to put on a good show. Just a peaceful human scientist, looking at pretty planets and taking measurements. It never occurred to you that I might be communicating with my fleet using quantum entanglement channels your sensors cannot detect." Dr. Helen Baker's voice came through from what she identified as Earth's Strategic Defense Center. "We have been building ships and hidden facilities throughout the outer system for 15 years. Every asteroid mining operation, every deep space research station, every scientific outpost has been covered for military construction. The Liberty was not our first ship, Admiral. It was ship number 340. The tactical display on the Vorthen flagship now showed the true scope of humanity's preparation. Hundreds of ships had been positioned throughout the Sol system like a vast trap. Some were hidden in asteroid fields, others lurked behind planets and moons, and still more waited in the dark spaces between orbits. Dr. Alex Stone, identified as the chief of human stealth technology, added his own explanation. Our ancestors had a saying, "Admiral, speak softly and carry a big stick." We have been speaking very softly for a very long time. Now you get to see the stick. Lieutenant Colonel Ray Collins, commander of the Human Tactical Response Division, delivered the final piece of the puzzle. Every military doctrine in your database assumes that emerging civilizations will follow the same pattern: develop space travel, encounter other species, then try to build defenses. We did it backward. We built the defenses first because we knew you were coming. Admiral Zektar realized his fleet was not just outnumbered but completely outmaneuvered. The humans had spent decades preparing for this exact moment, while maintaining the appearance of peaceful exploration. They had studied Vorthen tactics, learned Galactic Council protocols, and built a military force specifically designed to defeat the standard integration approach. "How long have you known about us?" Zektar asked, his voice barely controlled. Admiral Murphy's reply was calm and matter-of-fact. "We detected your first deep space probe 43 years ago. We have been intercepting and analyzing your communications ever since. We know about your empire, your conquest patterns, your military capabilities, and your standard operating procedures. We also know about the Galactic Council and their habit of enslaving species that cannot defend themselves." "This changes nothing," Zektar said, though his confidence was gone. "Even if you have more ships than expected, the Galactic Council will send reinforcements. You cannot stand against the entire galaxy." Admiral Murphy replied, "You are assuming this is the extent of human preparation. Trust me when I say that what you see here today is just the beginning." As Admiral Zektar stared at the tactical display showing hundreds of human warships surrounding his fleet, he began to understand that humanity represented something entirely new in galactic politics. They had not stumbled into space travel unprepared. They had been preparing for war before they even achieved it. Admiral Murphy's voice came through the communication system with the tone of someone who had hoped this moment would never come, but had prepared for it thoroughly. "Admiral Zektar, I am going to give you one opportunity to withdraw your fleet from this system peacefully. You have 10 minutes to make your decision." Admiral Zektar felt his blood temperature rise, a biological response that had served Vorthens well in countless battles. Despite being outnumbered, the idea of retreat went against every instinct he possessed. "Human, you may have more ships than we expected, but you are still dealing with warriors who have conquered 17 star systems. Your species has never faced real combat." 10 minutes, Admiral Murphy repeated. "Use them wisely." On the bridge of his flagship, Zektar turned to Lieutenant Crixell. "Battle stations. All ships are to prepare for engagement. These humans may have numbers, but they lack experience. We will show them what Vorthen steel can accomplish." The 12 Vorthen heavy cruisers began powering up their weapon systems. Energy readings spiked as massive plasma cannons charged, and shield generators hummed to full power. Each ship was a proven war machine, tested in dozens of conflicts across the galaxy. Admiral Murphy watched the energy build up from his command center and sighed. Dr. Carl Johnson, head of the Human First Contact Committee, had hoped the Vorth would choose wisdom over pride. "They are not going to back down," Johnson said quietly. "I know," Murphy replied. "Commander Walsh, you are cleared to engage. All ships, implement Battle Protocol 7. The human response was unlike anything the Vorthens had ever encountered. Instead of forming traditional battle lines or massing their forces for a direct assault, the human ships seemed to dance through space in patterns that made no tactical sense according to galactic military doctrine. Commander Steve Walsh of the U.S. Guardian led his squadron in what appeared to be a retreating maneuver, drawing half the Vorthen fleet away from the main group. As the enemy ships pursued, they found themselves flying directly into a carefully prepared trap. Captain Maria Santos brought her ships up from their hiding spots behind Neptune's moons, catching the pursuing Vorthens in a crossfire they had not seen coming. Lieutenant Colonel Ray Collins coordinated the engagement from his tactical command ship. Human weapon systems were completely different from standard galactic technology. Instead of trying to overpower Vorthen shields with brute force, human weapons seemed to learn and adapt in real time. Chief Tactical Officer Nina Walsh watched her targeting computers analyze Vorthen shield frequencies and automatically adjust weapon output to match resonance patterns that would cause maximum disruption. Their shields are rotating frequencies every few seconds, she reported. Our systems are tracking the changes and adjusting faster than their rotation cycle. The first Vorthen ship to fall was Admiral Zektar's own flagship. Captain Tony Clark of the UES Retribution had positioned his vessel in what appeared to be a vulnerable position, drawing the Admiral's attention and firepower, while Zektar focused on what he thought was an easy target. 3 other human ships approached from his blind spots, using advanced stealth technology. Dr. Robin Evans had spent years developing weapons specifically designed to defeat energy shields. Her quantum disruption torpedoes did not try to punch through Vorthen defenses. Instead, they convinced the shield generators that no attack was coming, causing them to lower their defenses just as the real weapons arrived. Admiral Zektar watched in horror as his flagship's shields simply disappeared, leaving his ship defenseless against follow-up attacks. Human precision weapons targeted his engines and weapon systems without destroying the ship entirely. Within minutes, the pride of the Vorthen fleet was drifting helplessly in space. General Patricia Green monitored the battle from Earth's Global Defense Center. She had been planning for this engagement for 15 years, ever since humanity first detected alien probe activity in their system. Every human ship carried weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter known galactic military technology. Captain Jeff Turner demonstrated human innovation under pressure when his squadron found itself facing 4 Vorthen cruisers simultaneously. Instead of engaging directly, Turner used something called asymmetric warfare that had never been seen in galactic conflicts. His ships scattered in multiple directions, forcing the Vorthens to split their attention, while the enemy tried to track multiple targets. Commander Amy Rogers launched what humans called drone swarms. Thousands of small, unmanned vehicles swarmed around the Vorthon ships like angry insects. Each drone carried minimal firepower, but their sheer numbers overwhelmed point defense systems designed to handle traditional missiles and fighters. Colonel Frank Miller took advantage of the confusion to demonstrate another uniquely human tactic. His boarding teams used small, stealthy transport pods to attach to Vorthen hulls during the chaos. Within minutes, human soldiers were fighting inside enemy ships using weapons and tactics that no galactic military had ever encountered. The Vorthen soldiers found themselves facing opponents who seemed to know exactly how their equipment worked and precisely how to disable it. Lieutenant General Gary Stone had spent years analyzing captured alien technology, and his intelligence teams had provided human forces with detailed technical specifications for every Vorthen system. Communications Officer Kate Wilson coordinated the information warfare component of the battle. Human computer specialists had been infiltrating Galactic Council networks for years, learning their communication protocols and command structures. When Vorthen ships tried to call for reinforcements, they found their messages being intercepted, modified, or blocked entirely. The battle lasted only 4 hours. When it ended, 3 Vorthen ships had been completely destroyed, 6 were disabled and captured, and the remaining 3 had surrendered after watching their fleet systematically dismantled by human forces that seemed to anticipate every move they made. Admiral Zektar found himself a prisoner aboard the U.S. Defiance, face to face with Admiral Murphy. The human commander was older than Zektar had expected, with gray hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of years spent preparing for this moment. "Why did you not simply destroy us?" Zektar asked. "You clearly had the capability." Murphy leaned back in his chair and considered the question. "Because, Admiral, we are not conquerors, we are defenders. Every human who died today died protecting our home and our freedom. We take no pleasure in killing, but we will do whatever is necessary to survive." Dr. Carl Johnson entered the room, carrying what he identified as the Human First Contact Protocols. "Admiral Zekita, you and your surviving crew will be treated according to the laws of war as established by the Geneva Convention and its subsequent amendments. You will receive medical care, adequate food and shelter, and the opportunity to communicate with your government." Zektar was confused by this treatment. In his experience, defeated enemies were either executed or enslaved. The concept of prisoner rights was foreign to Vorthon military culture. "What do you want from us?" "Information," Admiral Murphy replied. "We need to understand the full scope of galactic civilization, military capabilities, and political structures. Your invasion was authorized by something called the Galactic Council. We need to know if they will send more fleets and how large those fleets might be." Linda Foster, Earth's chief intelligence analyst, added her own questions. "We also need to understand how galactic conquest typically works. Do species usually surrender after the first defeat, or should we expect a protracted war?" Admiral Zektar realized that these humans were not just defending their home system. They were preparing for a larger conflict with powers beyond his single fleet. "The Council will not accept this defeat. They will send everything they have to destroy you." "Good," Murphy replied. "We were hoping they would." "Admiral, humanity has been preparing for total war since we first detected your probe networks. What you faced today was just our local defense force. You have not yet seen what we are truly capable of." As Zektar was escorted to his detention facility, he began to understand that his invasion had not been defeated by lucky amateurs. He had been outplanned, outfought, and outhot by a species that had spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were demonstrating that Earth would not be conquered by anyone. The news of Admiral Zektar's defeat reached the Galactic Council 3 days later through automated emergency beacons that had been programmed to activate if the Vorthan fleet was destroyed or captured. The council chambers erupted in chaos as representatives from dozens of species tried to understand how 12 heavy cruisers could be defeated by what their intelligence claimed was a single exploration vessel. Supreme Commander Velinari of the Crystalline Hegemony called for order. With a sound like breaking glass, her transparent, angular form caught the light from the chamber's central display as she reviewed the fragmentary reports. The humans appear to have been concealing their true military capacity. The question now is whether this represents a significant threat to galactic stability. Admiral Zektar's replacement, General Morkith, argued loudly for immediate retaliation. The younger Vorthan scales were bright red with rage as he addressed the assembly. "These humans destroyed or captured 9 of our finest warships. The Vorthan Empire demands authorization for a full punitive expedition. We must show the galaxy that attacking Vorthan forces brings swift and total destruction." Dr. Quillen Still, serving as the Council's xenobiologist, had spent the past 3 days analyzing every piece of available data about the Sol System battle. His tentacles moved nervously as he presented his findings. Based on the sensor logs from the surviving ships, human military technology operates on principles we do not fully understand. Their weapons adapted to our defenses in real time, and their tactics showed detailed knowledge of our standard operating procedures. Commander Vex of the insectoid swarm clicked his mandibles in agitation. How could one species develop such capabilities in secret? Our monitoring networks should have detected large-scale military construction. The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Loxel of the Energy Beings had been analyzing electromagnetic signatures from the Sol system for weeks. The humans have been using stealth technology far more advanced than anything in our databases. They appear to have been building their military for decades, while maintaining the appearance of peaceful scientific development. Supreme Commander Velinari studied the tactical reports with growing concern. Human battle formations were unlike anything in the galactic military archives. Instead of the traditional dreadnought-based fleets that dominated space warfare, humans used swarm tactics with smaller, more agile vessels that seemed designed specifically to counter established galactic military doctrine. The real question, she said finally, is whether this represents the full extent of human capability or merely their local defense force. If a species can hide this level of military development for decades, what else might they be concealing? General. Morkith slammed one of his 4 fists on his speaking podium. It does not matter what else they might have. No single species can stand against the combined might of the galactic community. I propose we authorize the largest coalition fleet in recorded history. 7 species, 800 ships, enough firepower to reduce their entire star system to debris. The proposal was unprecedented. Never before had the Galactic Council authorized such a massive military response against a single world. Coalition fleets were typically reserved for threats that endangered multiple systems or species that had already proven capable of interstellar conquest. Supreme Commander Velinari found herself in the uncomfortable position of supporting the proposal, despite her reservations. The humans have demonstrated advanced military technology and tactical sophistication that could spread to other emerging species if left unchecked. A decisive response is necessary to maintain galactic stability. Over the next week, representatives from 7 major civilizations began coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. The Vorthan Empire contributed their newest dreadnoughts, still burning for revenge. The crystalline hegemony provided ships whose energy weapons could crack planets. The insectoid swarm offered vessels designed for overwhelming numerical advantage. The Aquatic Federation sent ships from their deepest ocean worlds, craft designed to operate in the most hostile environments imaginable. The Silicon-based Collective contributed vessels whose computer systems could calculate targeting solutions faster than organic minds could process. The Energy Beings of Proxima added ships that existed partially outside normal space-time. Most concerning of all was the participation of the ancient machine intelligence. The AI civilization had not participated in galactic military operations for over 3 centuries. Their ships were older than some civilizations, but their technology remained beyond the understanding of organic species. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Murphy coordinated humanity's response from the Global Defense Center. The captured Vorthan prisoners had provided detailed information about galactic military capabilities and the likely composition of any retaliatory fleet. Dr. Carl Johnson's interrogation teams had been thorough but fair, treating their prisoners according to human standards of conduct. General Patricia Green reported that human industrial facilities had been operating at maximum capacity since the first battle. We have completed construction of another 1,500 vessels since the Vorthan attack. Our quantum manufacturing systems are producing ships faster than we ever thought possible. Captain Tony Clark, now serving as head of tactical planning, studied the intelligence reports about the approaching coalition fleet. 800 ships from 7 different species, with completely different technologies and tactical doctrines. This is going to be the largest space battle in recorded history. Dr. Robin Evans had been working around the clock to develop new weapons systems based on analysis of captured Vorthan technology. We now have detailed specifications for 6 different galactic military technologies. Our new adaptive weapons should be effective against the entire coalition fleet. Admiral Murphy felt the weight of responsibility for humanity's survival. The approaching fleet represented the combined military might of civilizations that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. If Earth's defenses failed, human civilization would be completely destroyed. How long until they arrive? He asked his intelligence staff. Intelligence Chief Gary Stone consulted his latest reports from human deep space monitoring stations. 2 weeks, maybe 3. The fleet is massive enough that they need time to coordinate their approach. Our stealth reconnaissance ships are tracking their progress. Captain Diana Brooks commanded one of those reconnaissance vessels. The UES Shadow had been monitoring the Coalition fleet since it departed from the galactic staging area. Her reports painted a picture of overwhelming force, ships larger than anything humanity had built, weapons that could destroy moons, and defensive systems that had never been defeated in battle. Admiral Scott Davis, commanding the human defensive fleet, had positioned over 2,000 ships throughout the Sol system. Unlike the first battle, this engagement would determine whether humanity survived as an independent species or joined the long list of civilizations that had been crushed by galactic military superiority. Captain Ruth Evans, serving as coordinator for Earth's hidden colonies, reported that reinforcement fleets were ready to deploy from 3 different star systems. Our colony worlds have been building ships for years. If the Sol system defenses are overrun, we have backup forces positioned throughout local space. Dr. Kevin Moore, now Earth's chief diplomatic strategist, had been analyzing galactic political structures to understand the long-term implications of the coming battle. If we defeat this coalition fleet, every species in the galaxy will know that humanity cannot be conquered through conventional military action. That will either make them more cautious or more desperate. As the coalition fleet approached the outer edge of the Sol system, Supreme Commander Velinari reviewed her battle plans one final time. 800 ships representing the finest military, traditions of 7 ancient civilizations, weapons that had conquered hundreds of worlds, defenses that had never failed in battle. She was confident that no single species, no matter how well prepared, could stand against such overwhelming force. The humans had surprised everyone once with their hidden fleet and advanced technology. They would not get the chance to surprise anyone again. What Velinari did not know was that humanity's preparations went far beyond anything the coalition fleet had encountered before. Earth's defenders were not just fighting for their home world. They were fighting to prove that freedom could not be conquered by overwhelming force, no matter how ancient or powerful. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history, with the survival of human independence hanging in the balance. The coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation. 800 vessels representing the combined military might of 7 galactic civilizations. Supreme Commander Velinari stood on the bridge of her flagship, a crystalline dreadnought 3 kilometers long, watching the tactical displays show human defensive positions throughout the system. "They have more ships than our intelligence indicated," reported her tactical officer. "I count over 2,000 vessels, positioned from the innermost planets to the outer asteroid belt." Velinari was not surprised. The humans had proven capable of hiding their true strength once before, but even 2,000 ships could not stand against the overwhelming technological advantage of the coalition fleet. "All ships, implement standard battle formation. We will advance as a unified force and crush their defenses through superior firepower." Admiral Murphy watched the approaching enemy fleet from Earth's Global Defense Center, surrounded by officers who had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. The coalition ships were massive, their weapons capable of destroying entire continents with single volleys. Against such overwhelming force, conventional military wisdom suggested that resistance was hopeless. "All defensive positions. This is Admiral Murphy," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of every species to determine its own destiny." Show them what free people can accomplish when they refuse to surrender. The battle began with the Coalition fleet attempting to demonstrate their superiority through a massive coordinated bombardment. Hundreds of weapons designed to break planetary defenses fired simultaneously, creating a wall of destructive energy that should have vaporized the first line of human ships. Instead, the human vessels seemed to dance between the incoming fire. Captain Jeff Turner's squadron used tactics that violated every principle of space combat known to galactic military science. Instead of meeting force with force, his ships scattered in seemingly random directions, making themselves impossible to target effectively. Commander Amy Rogers demonstrated why human military doctrine was fundamentally different from galactic norms. Her drone swarms did not attack enemy ships directly. Instead, thousands of small, intelligent machines swarmed around Coalition vessels, jamming sensors, disrupting communications, and creating chaos in their precisely coordinated formations. Colonel Frank Miller led boarding operations that shocked the galaxy's finest warriors. Human soldiers appeared inside enemy ships, using transportation methods that bypassed shields and armor entirely. Once aboard, they fought with a desperation and creativity that veteran galactic troops had never encountered. The real surprise came when Supreme Commander Velinari realized that the 2,000 human ships were not fighting a defensive battle. They were conducting a carefully orchestrated tactical withdrawal, drawing the Coalition fleet deeper into the Sol system, where additional surprises waited. Communications. Officer Kate Wilson coordinated what humans called information warfare. While Coalition ships tried to maintain their complex battle formations, human computer specialists infiltrated their networks and began feeding false targeting data to their weapons systems. Enemy ships found themselves firing at phantom targets while real threats approached undetected. Admiral Murphy had learned from studying thousands of years of human military history that the greatest victories often came from turning an enemy's strength against them. The Coalition fleet's size and coordination, which should have been advantages, became weaknesses when human tactics forced them to operate in ways their doctrine had never anticipated. Captain Diana Brooks arrived with what appeared to be reinforcements from humanity's outer system defenses. The UES Victory led a fleet of 300 ships that had been hidden beyond the orbit of Pluto. But these were not the real reinforcements that would shock the galaxy, as the Coalition fleet found itself engaged across multiple fronts throughout the Sol system. Admiral Scott Davis opened communications from coordinates that should have been empty space. Supreme Commander Velinari, this is Admiral Davis of the Human Colonial Fleet. You are now engaged with our home defense forces. Perhaps we should introduce you to our real military capability. Space around the Coalition fleet began to shimmer as hundreds of additional ships dropped their stealth fields. But these vessels were not broadcasting from the Sol system. Captain Ruth Evans commanded ships that had traveled from Proxima Centauri, humanity's first hidden colony. Admiral Tony Clark led vessels from Wolf 359, the second colony. Captain Linda Foster brought ships from Ross 128. The third secret human settlement. Supreme Commander Velinari watched her tactical displays in growing horror as human reinforcements continued to arrive from star systems throughout the local region. The Coalition had come to destroy one world and found themselves facing an interstellar civilization that had been expanding in secret for decades. "This is impossible," she transmitted to the human fleet. "Our deep space monitors show no evidence of human colonization beyond your home system." Admiral Murphy's reply came with the confidence of someone who had planned this revelation for years. "Commander, your monitors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect. While you were watching our one exploration ship collect rock samples, we were building a hidden interstellar empire using stealth technology your sensors cannot penetrate." Dr. Kevin Moore, now serving as humanity's first galactic ambassador, provided the explanation that would reshape galactic politics forever. Every species in the galaxy developed spaceflight and then encountered other civilizations through exploration or conquest. Humanity developed, knowing that hostile forces were already out there. We have been preparing for this war since before we achieved faster-than-light travel. The battle demonstrated why human military thinking was fundamentally different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Where other species relied on massive ships and overwhelming firepower, humans used adaptability and innovation. Their weapons learned from each engagement, becoming more effective as the battle progressed. Captain Tony Clark commanded vessels whose artificial intelligence systems had been studying galactic military technology for decades. Human computers did not just analyze enemy weaknesses. They predicted enemy responses and developed countermeasures faster than organic minds could process tactical changes. General Patricia Green coordinated the engagement from Earth, while simultaneously managing industrial facilities that continued producing new ships even during the battle. Human manufacturing capacity had been designed for total war from the beginning, capable of replacing losses faster than enemies could inflict them. The Coalition fleet found itself fighting an enemy that seemed to violate every principle of galactic warfare. Human ships operated independently while maintaining perfect coordination. Their weapons adapted to new targets automatically. Their tactics changed so rapidly that no counter-strategy could be developed fast enough to be effective. Dr. Robin Evans had spent years developing weapons specifically designed to defeat each Coalition species. Crystalline ships found their energy matrices disrupted by quantum interference weapons. Insectoid vessels discovered that their hive mind coordination made them vulnerable to cognitive warfare systems. Machine intelligences encountered logic viruses that turned their own computational power against them as the battle raged across multiple star systems. Supreme Commander Velinari began to understand that she was not fighting a single species defending its home world. She was fighting a civilization that had spent generations preparing for galactic war while maintaining the appearance of peaceful isolation. The final shock came when human ships began arriving from even more distant locations. Captain Jeff Turner led vessels from Tau Ceti, a colony that had been established 30 years earlier. Commander Amy Rogers brought ships from Epsilon Eridani, humanity's first military production facility outside the Sol system. Within 12 hours, the Coalition fleet found itself outnumbered 3-1 by human forces that had emerged from hidden bases. Throughout a 50-light-year radius, the galaxy's greatest military alliance was being systematically dismantled by a species they had considered primitive just weeks earlier. Supreme Commander Velinari made the decision that would echo through galactic history. All Coalition ships. This is Supreme Commander Velinari. We are standing down. The human species has proven its right to independence through superior strategy and preparation. Admiral Murphy accepted the surrender with the same professionalism he had shown throughout the conflict. Commander, your surviving ships will be allowed to depart human space unharmed. Your crews will receive medical attention and supplies for the journey home. We want no further conflict with galactic civilization. Dr. Kevin Moore established the Human Diplomatic Corps based on principles that would reshape how species interacted throughout the galaxy. We will not conquer or subjugate other civilizations, but we will defend ourselves and any species that asks for our protection. The age of conquest through overwhelming force ends today. The aftermath of the battle saw humanity take its place not as a conquered species, or even as equals, but as the new dominant power in galactic politics. Earth had proven that careful preparation and strategic thinking could overcome seemingly impossible odds. 6 months later, Admiral Murphy stood in the same Global Defense Center where he had coordinated humanity's survival, now serving as commander of the Galactic Peace Enforcement Fleet. Species throughout the galaxy had requested human protection from aggressive neighbors, leading to a new era of interstellar cooperation based on mutual defense rather than conquest. The galaxy learned that sometimes the most dangerous species is not the one with the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons. Sometimes the most dangerous species is the one that prepares for war while hoping for peace, that studies its enemies while appearing weak, and that builds strength in secret while presenting a face of innocuous exploration to the universe. Humanity had proven that freedom and independence could not be conquered by overwhelming force. No matter how ancient or powerful, the galaxy would never again underestimate a species based on appearances, and the age of easy conquest was over forever.